Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me this afternoon. It's my first time in Berlin and in Germany, for that matter. But I'm really impressed with the city. We'll definitely come back. One thing was, like the flight cost was actually cheaper than the taxi from the airport, too. So definitely we'll come back with the family. So yeah, what I'm here today is to showcase to you guys like a major rebrand that is undergoing at the Co-op, and how and showcase to you like the learnings that we had, as well as the challenges, and share with you the processes that we're using to manage this. So. A little bit about me. Like, I've been doing SEO since 2004. Currently, I'm senior SEO manager at Co-op Digital. My main focus areas are technical SEO, content strategy, and analytics. Below are some of the brands I had the pleasure to work with over the years. And just to give you some background about the Co-op, because this will help you understand like the challenges that we had in terms of implementing these and managing the whole process. Basically, the Co-op is, well, over 150 years old. It's a brand that is loved by the UK people. It's the 5th largest groceries retailer in the UK and the first funeral services provider. He employs around 70,000 people. And is a member-owned organization, which means there's no shareholders. Like when you join the Co-op, you pay £1 and you become a shareholder. That's great, although it introduces some complications, which you'll see later on, and is also a social goals and community-led organization. So the business purpose is to reuse the profits back into the community. So and those are like the business areas that we operate in: food, groceries, insurance, electrical, which is an e-commerce operation that like selling electric goods, like TVs, fridges, etc., funeral care, and legal services. According to the stress inventory, actually, there is one stress inventory from the American Institute of Stress. These are 3 of the most stressful things in life, which are like moving house. Like, I'm sure most of you already moved house at least once, and you know how stressful that can be. Getting fired or losing your job is also like a really stressful situation. Hopefully, not many of you had that experience. And as well as having a broken heart. Unfortunately, that was an experience I had in the past, and you feel exactly like that guy walking along a beach, dragging a bleeding heart. But in my view, there's one that they didn't mention there, website migrations. And I think we should start a Twitter Thunderclap campaign requesting to add that there. So that's what we're talking about today. So in terms of the Rebrand and One-Domain, so it's 2 programs, but obviously there's like a lot of crossover between them. So it's a 5-year program to rebrand the whole estate of the Co-op, so which involves 2,500 food grocery stores and 1,000 funeral homes, as well as all the collateral like trucks and everything else. And then migrate all websites to coop.co.uk. Like currently, as you see, like each business unit has their own like domains that were like introduced like throughout the years. So it's a little bit of a mess. So those are like the commercial business areas, and then there are others as well, like employee information and all that kind of thing that also need to be migrated. As well as that, There's also like social media handles and emails. Those have been completed. Like now, the main one is at Co-op UK, and all business units are Co-op UK Food, Co-op UK Electrical, so that basically like it's more future-proof. Like, and any business that we want to enter will always use that structure. So when I've learned about all this, that was pretty much the face like I had. Like, you gotta be kidding. Like, this is too much work. This is like kind of the face my daughter pulls when I ask her to do something that she doesn't really want to do. So, in terms of migrations, what's the SEO's worst nightmare? Is when someone comes to you like with this question, like, we changed our website, dropped 85% of traffic after migrating. How can we get back? So this is a situation you don't want to get into, because by that point it's probably late, or it's going to take you a long time to recover. So don't let things like this happen under your watch. This was actually one of our competitors a few years ago, and it took them like 2 years to recover from a badly managed migration. So the key is to be involved early and also to take the lead in the process. Otherwise, things will just happen with or without your input. So you need to make sure that people are aware of the implications of changing either domain or migrating to HTTPS or changing content. All these changes will have an impact on SEO, and you need to make people aware. Although like, it's not always easy, and people don't always listen to you, so that's like, the process started in January 2016, and we spent like around 8 months just getting people on board and making people aware of what the implications could be for SEO. So, as part of the like process, is like we first assessed risk, and also like I think it is important that you give people options, because people feel more empowered when you give them options, as opposed to you just say, no, we should be doing this way because it's better for Google. It's like, if they don't work in that channel, or if he's an exec leader, he doesn't really care about Google that much. So basically, like, he's letting them know what kind of the options that they have. It's like what assumptions you've taken, like kind of to validate those options, what tasks you need to complete, like, so that they can weigh in terms of resource and cost, like what potentially could cost, as well as risks and issues, and the business impact as well, which, like, at the exec level, probably that's what they would care about. For example, in this example, we can't probably read very well, but option 2 was, it was being planned to kind of do a stage migration, so moving to a beta type subdomain for a period of 6 months, and then gradually moving websites slowly. So that for a developer, that is less risky. But then there's like, obviously from an SEO perspective, that will be a nightmare. So, okay, those are the options you put forward. So let's assess like which one will have less impact from an SEO perspective. So after putting like all the facts together, it was evident that option 1 would be like less risky, would involve a little bit more work from a development perspective, but it's just how things are, and like it was the option that was selected. So yeah, and that goes on to like make like the interested parties aware of the risks. Like you need to segment like at all different levels of the organization, like what, because they're not all interested in the same things. Like for example, there, like the exec leadership will be more concerned about revenue figures. Are we going to lose revenue as a result of the migration? The same for sales teams. Revenue and reputational damage that they could potentially incur. Marketing or content teams, as well as revenue and reputational damage, is what resources you need from them, and potentially you need to provide training as well, like, to content teams in terms of what, like if they need to migrate content, like how can you assess content, like work with them to define those processes. And for development and IT teams, which for us at least, that like brought challenges because the different business units use different agencies, and so it's basically like getting everyone on board to try and work together. So a way to do that was basically just tell them what's at stake. So organic search traffic for the main website at least accounts for 65% of all traffic. We broke down by section because different teams manage different sections of the site. For example, for the contact area is the customer services department. The membership is the membership team. So when you put things like that, it becomes like, who wants to be responsible for losing 65% of traffic? Basically, at that point, it's like you listen to it, people, like, you'll get their attention. So basically, yeah, now, if I got your attention, let's work together. So a well-executed website migration, like, it can be actually like an opportunity to improve rankings, content, and performance of the website. And that's what I'd like to show you today. So we like divided the migration in 3 stages. So the discovery and planning stage, launch, and then clean up and monitor after it's been launched. So it is important to dedicate most of the time and resources and in the discovery and planning stage, because like basically that is where you set everything to make sure that when it gets to launch day, everything is just implemented very smoothly. Yeah, it just worked like a lot better for us, like doing that. So in terms of like the first thing, like within discovery and planning, is to determine what's going to change, because there are different types of migration. It could just be a migration to a new server, which becomes a lot easier because basically just pointing from one to the other. So in that case, most of the tasks are going to be involved in like speed performance, like is a new service performing better or worse than the old one. Like a really popular one at the moment, at least for us SEOs, is from HTTP to HTTPS. And that can be, like, if it's not managed properly, can really have a negative impact. Then, like, you also need to take in consideration, is the content or metadata changing? Is the website layout changing or front-end code? Because the new layout then might have features that aren't SEO friendly or can be crawled, as well as things making sure that you don't lose like schema markup and microdata. And then lastly is like the domain name as well. If the domain name is changing, obviously, as you know, like then that will involve setting up the redirects and everything else. So in terms of like the tasks that need to be completed like in a legacy environment. So first things first is to start with the website crawl, like to have like a view of like a full list of all the URLs that exist on the site, evaluate the condition, like whether they're 404ing and duplicate content and all those issues, so that you can start seeing like what pages you want to keep, what pages you want to get rid of as well. And then is like aggregate all top pages, making sure that like pages that have links or shares are redirected so that you don't lose that equity. So there are like a number of tools that you can use for that. Like for us, we used all of these tools so that basically we had a view of everything, like all URLs, like with our like Excel geek, put everything in Excel, deduped, added all the metrics, and then we started like having a view of what pages are important, because what you also have to take in consideration is you might have, if you just scroll the website without looking at external databases, you might be missing pages from legacy platforms that obviously if you scroll them, you won't see those URLs. So just make sure that you have everything. And then from there is like start prioritizing content. So the 4 key metrics are like visits, number of links to the pages or shares, and then use an authority rating, either like page authority or page rating. Like from there, like you can start prioritizing which pages you're going to keep as is, which pages can possibly be improved, or which pages will be removed. Like Daniel alluded earlier, some pages are just, there's no value in having them there, potentially never had any visit for over 12 months. So at that stage, it's like there's no point keeping those pages. So, because you don't want to end up with a redirect file with hundreds of thousands of redirects there. Another thing we did and I recommend doing is doing selective redirecting, like not redirecting everything just because this is an opportunity to basically clean up the backlink profile. So if there are, like we had some, due to like old SEO practices from many years ago, some URLs had toxic links pointing to them, like old directories and like bot links, that kind of stuff. And a lot of them, we just left them behind because the risk of almost like you could potentially be migrating a penalty in a way, isn't it? If you're starting with a new domain, is the opportunity to start fresh. So if there's like URLs that like just have just too much toxicity in them and not that much traffic, is the opportunity to leave them behind. So that straightforward, like then like redirect mapping. So like from to like defining like which URLs like from the old site going to the new site. At this stage, you can use, depending on what platform you are, you can use wildcards to reduce the file sizes. But that's something that you need then to work with your developers to see what will be the best way to approach that. Something to be like mindful of is to avoid redirect chains. That can easily happen, like if you have like a redirect like from a previous migration that was pointing to page B. If you then just like migrate from there to there, you end up with a chain. So basically, like if page A had valuable links pointing to them, they'll be lost. So what you'll have to do is to broke that chain and just redirect everything like to the final destination instead. So that's something that is easily missed. So in terms, like we used, I think it was Screaming Frog for this too, because you can do like 2 or 3 hops to see which URLs had more than one hop and started cleaning all that. So that's definitely something that I recommend doing. And then like lastly, is to benchmark performance. So knowing where you are in terms of rankings and visibility. I like to focus more on visibility because, like was alluded earlier, rankings, like there are so many variations of keywords today with voice and all that kind of thing, that visibility is like that true metric that basically tells you how you're doing across the keyword universe. And then from there, like for your key sections, like how we're doing now, so we benchmark everything so that once we migrate, we know whether like the migration had positive or negative impact. So, and then for like the new platform, so again, it's important to be involved as early as possible so that things don't start rolling without your input. So it's communicate those SEO requirements early. So it's key like to contribute to the wireframes if possible. So like knowing like or evaluating if the design functionality is SEO friendly, if there are no like filters that don't reload the URL or like using hash type links and that kind of stuff, and also see if there's enough body copy there. So that's something you can see like from just from looking at the wireframes, you might identify, well, I think we need some more copy there, or so. Yeah, it's working together with the UX guys like on that. And also, like, make the new architecture keyword-driven when possible by creating, like, silo types content so that you can maximize the topical authority of the website. Because, like, if you are in a situation where you have a site that over time grown and there's pages all over the place, so this is the opportunity to bring everything together again. In making sure that you have like more like silos, content silos, and also like see what can be done to improve the internal linking structure of pages, and that could be like with features that can even be implemented automatically, like related content, or people who saw this type of content also seeing that. So it's the opportunity to evaluate all that and to improve your keyword visibility. Then, like, once that's in place, like, and you start getting the first, like, mock-ups for you to evaluate, is to complete a technical audit, still in the staging environment. You need to prevent indexation in terms of those are in priority order, like the most effective methods to do so. So start with IP whitelisting, which is where you only allow certain IPs to see the site, going to password protection. You can block it or no index it as well, but Google can sometimes not respect that. Happens many times where they start indexing sites. Staging sites. Then do like navigation checks and internal linkings to see like by crawling the site and see like how pages are linking to interlinking to each other, as well as looking at the content and metadata. That's the opportunity where you get your team to start writing the meta tags for the site so that you're getting ready for the launch. If there are canonical tags implemented, check that there are no issues where it's quite easily done where like it actually happened in one of our sites where the developer left a canonical tag across the whole platform that was pointing to the home page. So just by checking that, we identify that. Then check like the semantic markup and header tags and page structure. Again, like scheme and micro data markup, if it's relevant to your business, if it's like an e-commerce site or a local business, that's really, really important. Another one that is often missed is like open graph tags in Twitter cards, like making sure that you can either like go overboard and have unique elements for those, or they could just mirror the page title and meta description, and also like define an image, either like the default image could be your business logo or something like that, or having a feature image so that when people share, like the article always appears correctly. Then like making sure that like we have dynamic XML sitemaps, robots tags, then Google Analytics and tracking codes. So done all that, hopefully like the process have run smoothly throughout. So now we got to the moment of truth, which is the D-Day, like the migration. So on launch day, so there are like four stages that like we go through, which is crawl, check, submit, and launch. So crawl is kind of like that last crawl where you crawl the site, making sure there are no errors, test all the redirects. Like if you upload them to a crawling software, will tell you the HTTP codes for all of them. Then check page titles. Is everything okay? Are they the right length? The same goes for meta descriptions and headings. And then like ensure that you're getting the right HTTP codes as well, that 404 is delivering a 404 code in 500, etc. So once that's all done, like you're submitting to Google and Bing, initially it's like fetch as Google so you can check that Google is seeing the same like thing that you're seeing. Submit the XML sitemaps. Another one that is often missed is the disavow file. So if you're moving domain, it's like you need to upload the disavow file from the old domain on the new one as well, so that like if you have any links being disavowed there, they disavowed like for the new domain. So once all that's in place, you request a change of address in Google, which is at that stage where Google will start de-indexing the old site and updating the new one. So once all of that has been implemented, it's just removing the indexing restrictions from the staging site. Like if the IPs are already pointing to the new server, and we should be ready to go. So then we get like to clean up and monitor, which is basically like keep the link juice flowing. There are still quite a lot of tasks we still have to do at this point. Well, we start with clean up and reclaim external links. So basically update any links you may have from other company websites. Like if you work for a group, you'll have other sister companies and things that will be linking to that site. So making sure those are updated. Same goes for things like social profiles, Wikipedia, if you have a Wikipedia page, so update the link there. It might be like industry profiles, things like that. Basically, any links you have control of, updating all of those. Then do technical audits, content audits, etc. And then there's we also like to run link juice recovery tool from link research tools to see. Basically, we'll flag if there are any pages with links that are 404ing. That really helps, kind of has that. After all those checks, you already knew about that, but it's always good to check once the page is live as well. And there's a little hack I found which works really well to get Google to index your redirects, which is use the link detox boost. If you upload the list of legacy URLs, the ones that you're redirecting, if you use link detox boost, that don't ask me why, I don't know exactly how it works, but it makes Google go back and index those a lot quicker, so which means that they'll register all those redirects. And that we've tested that like in 2 different migrations and noticed that when we've done that, the recovery was a lot faster. So, and then it's like monitoring rankings and indexation regularly, like on a weekly basis at least, checking rankings, visibility score, indexation ratio, like on Google you can see like on Google Search Console, you can see like the pages that are in this submitted like in the sitemaps versus what's indexed. So if the indexation is low, then you know that you need to do something about that. Monitor crawl errors as well, so you can use Searchmetrics crawler to notify you if it's finding errors, as well as checking server logs regularly, because we'll tell you not just for human visitors, but also for crawlers, if you like what errors like you're getting as well. So at this stage, like you probably like can go out with your team and like have a beer or something. So it's all done. Not quite yet though. So something like we've like developed as well is a rollback plan. So in case like if something goes wrong, like you can always like revert back. Depending on how deeply you go into it, like it becomes more or less complicated to implement. So, but that can be like, it actually happened to one of our sites. They didn't deploy the redirects, so at that stage then you end up with 2 websites. So in terms of rollback plan, if it's a domain migration, like you remove the redirects and block the new domain from being indexed, that should then, well, hopefully Google then will revert back to the original domain. If it's a server migration, it's a lot more straightforward. Basically, you need to repoint to the original server, and that should be addressed. And then in both cases, is submitting the legacy sitemaps and then crawl the legacy website as well. Just make sure that there are no issues there. There might be more points that apply to a rollback plan, depending on what type of migration it is, but those kind of cover most of them. But like the key point here is to always have a rollback plan, just in if all else fails, then you can kind of revert it. So the question is, like the question we got was, can we migrate our websites without losing traffic or organic search, without losing rankings or organic search traffic? The question is, yes, we can, like Obama. We've done 10 so far. Like we focus first on the non-commercial ones to obviously like to gain trust from stakeholders, to make sure that we test our processes and make them repeatable. So we started, although like membership is a really important platform for the business, but it needed to migrate to a new infrastructure. So we started with that, and then we've done like the jobs website that is performing a lot better than it was before. Same for colleagues, which is just an information website for colleagues that tells them about what's going on in the business, payday dates and things like that. The Finder, which is the stores and funeral homes directory. The performance for the Finder increased by 20% after the migration, because all stores used to be as a subfolder of cooperative.coop. We changed basically an internal team was put in place to develop a completely new a new Finder. Everything was built from scratch, and like we worked closely with them. Like there was a lot more content on the pages. Like schema markup was implemented as well, and everything else. And like, yeah, it worked really well. So in terms of, this is for the main cooperative.coop, so that's the legacy domain. So we migrated to www.coop.co.uk. So we forecasted, like that was kind of the blanket forecast that we provided, was like 8 to 12 weeks kind of recovery time. So we managed to recover within 4 weeks, which I think was really good. However, like, wasn't all smooth sailing. So, like, kind of, that's like the ambition. Like, that's what we thought it would happen. Like, you have all these migrations, and we're just migrating almost like in a yacht in the Caribbean or something. But the reality was more that kind of our team tying loose ends and like discussing meetings and things like with different developers, and things weren't implemented when we wanted and things like that. So, and to demonstrate that, that's for the same website, the same migration. So before we were seeing up to there, but we were required to do a partial content rollback, and that's where, like, when I mentioned before, that's one of the pitfalls from being a member on the organization, was because there's like a manifesto or a document that was like written around like in 1998 or something that specified that the co-op website had to be hosted in that domain. No one knew about that because before we migrated, everything was passed by legal and everything, but someone managed to dig that document, and the member council, there's a member council, said that, well, sorry guys, like you need to keep like all society, co-op society related content needs to be in cooperative.coop. So that for us was like no, but but like, yeah, we had to do it. So, but like we had to, so we kept all commercial content in there and then remigrated content back to cooperative.coop. But then when you look at the combined visibility score for both of them, is still around there. So even though we've kind of remigrated, like the drop wasn't that considerable. So we had like a little drop there and then recovered, which was really good. But kind of, I don't want you to think that everything was just like a sea of roses and everything was positive. Like, this is for one of the businesses that they didn't really take SEO seriously, even after we saying like, this is gonna hit you really hard, you're gonna like lose a lot of traffic if you don't implement our recommendations. They kind of, oh yeah, okay. They always like agreed, but in terms of implementing the work, it didn't, like, as an example, I took like 3 months to implement the redirects. They implemented the batch and then another batch. So, and you can tell like what the impact was when things are not followed properly. And it's like, this was kind of late last year. We had a breakthrough after we managed to lift the partial penalty the site was under. It's gone up, and then we were told, oh, we have to migrate. So that's why I made that sad face earlier. So, like, but because things weren't implemented as we requested, it took so much longer. This is like a period of about 6 months. Eventually, they started, like, it dawned on them that, well, actually, this SEO thing is quite important. Like, let's listen to these guys because we're losing revenue here. So we started implementing some stuff, started making optimizations, and you see traffic, like, sorry, not traffic, visibility started improving after that. So, and, well, that's it for me today. Like, kind of the key points I wanted to convey to you guys today is to, if you notify that there's a migration undergoing in your organization, is to take the lead. Don't. Okay. Okay. You finished? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish your
Take the
sentence.
lead. Don't let things like come to you. Like plan thoroughly, because that like I said before, dedicate that time to resource and planning, collaborate with all the different teams, keep link joins flowing, like making sure that you implementing the redirects, but as well as changing links to the new domain as soon as you can, and they have a rollback plan. And I've created a migration checklist. You guys can download if you want. All right, thank you.